Dear participants, dear colleagues, as Vice President of the International Astronautic Federation and in charge for the Global Networking Forum, it is my pleasure to welcome you today to this exciting session, part of the Global Network Forum Space Conversation series. With the support of the Federation, I'm happy to continue to provide this unique platform to the whole community, to give you all the opportunity to stay connected, to share ideas, and to be updated on the latest news. Today's session is organized by the Moon Village Association, a non-governmental organization created in 2017 and based in Vienna. It comprises approximately 200 members from more than 46 countries and 27 institutional members around the globe, representing a diverse array of technical, scientific, cultural, and interdisciplinary fields. The representatives of the Moon Village Association, MVA, will present some of the main developments of the association plan for 21. So first, the progress on Moon Village architecture studies, including a reference design case study focusing on lunar activities in 2045. Secondly, the Global Expert Group on Sustainable Lunar Activities, a neutral forum for multi-stakeholder discussions on the exploration and use of the moon. And thirdly, the participation of the Space Emerging Countries Program. In the summer of 2020, the MVA invited teams from emerging space countries around the world to participate in an activity to draw up a roadmap for their country to involve them in the Moon Village concept. So finally, they will present the status of the national regional networks and will explain how to get involved in the MVA activities. I'm very pleased now to give the word to the moderator of that session, Dr. Oleg Venskowski, Moon Market Development Manager of the Moon Village Association. Thank you and enjoy the session.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for this nice introduction. I would just add that I'm also with Yuzhny Design Office of Ukraine, and I'm a representative of the company based in Brussels, and it's my main occupation. Hello, everyone, and it's a great pleasure to welcome all of you interested in the MVA activities. Again, in this virtual format, but I would like to tell you that from the very beginning, when the MVA came into being some 4 years ago, a little bit less, we regularly participated in the GNF events in Paris and during spring meetings and during the congresses. We continue this tradition today, and I would like to first express our gratitude to the International Astronautical Federation for giving us this wonderful platform called IAF GNF. You might be wondering what's happening at the MVA, and we did prepare for you some interesting news. As a wise man said, one way to keep momentum going is to have constantly greater goals. As you will see, it's the case when it comes to the Moon Village Association. Let me, not abusing my power of the moderator, but still, before going to the panelists, to give you a very brief information about the developments at the MVA related to the moon market. First, after the very successful event, online event that we had last September, organized in cooperation with ESA on the subject of non-space business goes to the moon. The event attracted more than 40,000 attendees. We decided to have some follow-up events, a series of events, in fact, dedicated to some particular areas of activities of non-space businesses. But the question is, what's come next? presumably in a couple of months, we are going to organize a new event. Is it going to be oil and gas sector, for example, or architecture, or energy, or maybe robotics? We would like you to be engaged in the selection of the topic. We are about to take a decision soon, so please, your thoughts, your suggestions could be taken into account. Moreover, you can be engaged actively in the organization of the event and participation in the event. Please contact us, me directly via our website, and we can discuss how to arrange everything. Secondly, very recently, we have created a new working group called Lunar Commerce and Economics Working Group. And we have got more than 220 expressions of interest to participate in the group. Of course, in order to make the group manageable, we had to down select to a couple of dozens of participants. But that said, everybody can have his or her say. Please visit the website, and you will see how you could be engaged in the activities of this working group. Finally, we are revamping significantly the Moon Market page of our website, and you all are invited to be a part of the process to make the web page a live and useful instrument for everybody interested in the subject. That said, we are going to move to our panelists. And before I do this, please take into account that after our panelists are done with their presentations, we will have a Q&A session. And to do this, we will use an instrument called Slido, with which I guess you are familiar. Now, I would like to pass the floor to the president of the Moon Village Association, Giuseppe Ribaldi, located nowadays in Rome. Apart from being the president of the association, he also initiated the creation in 2015 of the Hague Space Resources Governance Working Group and acted as its executive secretary until the group successfully fulfilled its task last year. Moreover, Giuseppe, since 2013, is the director of human spaceflight at the International Academy of Astronautics, IAA. For 35 years, he worked for the European Space Agency, covering different functions and fields. Giuseppe has introduced space policy in the Italian universities in the 90s and is known as a professor at some of them. Giuseppe, the floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you, Oleg, and thank you again to the International Astronautical Federation to give us this wonderful opportunity. So I will try to basically explain briefly again what is the Moon Village Association. Has already been introduced. We are an NGO. What is most relevant is to indicate that besides being a member of the International Astronautical Federation, we have also an observer status in the United Nations COPUOS, which is allowing us basically to bring messages related to the lunar community, as we will see shortly, on major important issues. So as has been already said, that the, let's say, uniqueness of our organization is related to the fact it is a multi-stakeholder. So in the association, is made of individual and institution, and those are coming from industry, space agency, government, international organization, NGO, and most likely, very important, the public. And this is actually something which we do it today. So I think the organization is a catalyst with stimulating a virtuous cycle of investment for the development of the lunar economy, which has already been explained in detail by Oleg. So now I will simply give you, because of time, we cannot go in detail, just this chart gives you an indication of some of the activities, which you can see they are ranging on a variety of different topics. You heard from Oleg the Lunar Commerce and Economics Working Group, which you can see on the upper right. Then we have outreach education, and in particular Women on the Moon, where we try to stimulate women to, let's say, get involved in lunar project. We have cultural consideration, which are extremely important. We are developing the first payload, which is a camera, which is flying on a lunar lander. Coordination and cooperation, which is the incubator of the next topic, which is the global expert group. And then, as you will hear immediately after me, the working group about architecture, which will be introduced by Mr. John Mankins, the Vice President. And then you will also hear later on the participation of emerging space country PEX project, which is going to be presented by the project manager. I will now just zoom on one specific activity, which I feel is extremely important, like all others. And this is related to this global expert group on sustainable lunar activity, which is being set up. So first of all, why did we set up this group? Well, as you know, we have plenty of missions going to and around the moon from many stakeholders. And there are a number of missions which are going very close to the same area, particularly the South Pole. So there is a potential for, let's say, uncoordinated mission, which could generate some, let's say, international tension. And there is also a lot of other reasons. So in order, what is needed in order to mitigate those issues? So you need to try to define common practice on how to behave for the lunar mission. At the moment, we have international treaty, but it is not clear in specific area how to behave. So I think that's a very important element. We also need to define implementation detail for those missions. For instance, there is a need to try to get interoperability between the different stakeholders, also for, let's say, recovery mission, as well as for safety matter. Then for the lunar orbit, you know that we have not done very well in low Earth orbit. So we hope to do better in lunar orbit. So that's why from the very beginning, we need to get set up debris mitigation guidelines, as well as a safety zone. Lander are going to come in some cases very close, but because of the dust, there is going to be impingement and possible damage. So I think we need to define in a global way, with the involvement of as many people as possible, all these kind of, let's say, element. And so we need, therefore, as a result of that, to create confidence building and foster peaceful cooperation. And of course, keep the public info, which is really at the very basic core of the value of the Moon Village Association. And so the best way to try to achieve all this goal is being to set up a specific global expert group on sustainable lunar activities called GEGSLA, somehow similar to successful The Hague Space Resources Working Group, but even more multi-stakeholder. So you can see we have basically 5 categories of stakeholders, from space agency, government, industry, academia, civil society, and last but not least, the public. Let's see where we are today. So we just had the kickoff a few days ago, 25th of February. This is going to be a virtual type of event. It's going to have monthly meetings, very, very focused. I can say that at the moment we have 36 members. We have 12 between space agency and government, 10 representative of industry, 8 from academy, meaning university, science center, and 6 from the civil society. However, we have more than 120 observers, and with about 40 countries represented. We have decided that the call for observer as sponsor is reopened, so people interested, they can go on our website and become observer. And of course, we are welcome, particularly the sponsor, which will then be recognized in all the event. So what is the goal? The outcome of this group is to bring all the material to United Nations COPUOS via MBA, which is an observer status. And of course, via the member states, which will support, we hope that they will support our action, because they are somehow involved. So we will have a main document, which will be in the shape of common practice or other for sustainable lunar activity, and then a set of guidelines. So with that, I hope I've given also information. This activity will take place 2021 and 2022. And with that, I would like to close my presentation and give the floor back to you, Oleg. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. The next panelist is John Mankins. We are moving to sunny California. John, to you. Apart from being Vice President of the Moon Village Association, John is also President of Artemis Innovation Management Solutions, LLC, and of Mankins Space Technology Incorporated, and a Director of Solar Space Technologies. He also serves on the boards of both the National Space Society and of Space Canada. And John is a Dean and Professor on the faculty of the online Kepler Space Institute. During his 25-year career at NASA and JPL, he held numerous positions, including serving as Chief Technologist for Human Exploration and Development of Space at NASA headquarters, where he created and managed the 1 billion per year Exploration Systems Research and Technology Program. John Mankins is well known as an expert in human and robotic exploration and development. He probably could be called as a father of the famous TRL, because in early 90s, he wrote the first detailed definitions of the technology readiness level. And John is also the world's leading expert in the field of space solar power. On a personal note, I can tell you, dear colleagues, that the study on the subject, on the space solar power, probably one of the best ever done by the International Academy of Astronautics. John, the floor is yours.
Oleg, thank you so much for that kind introduction. It is a pleasure to be with you very early this morning here in California, where sadly it is not sunny, but for a rare chance it is raining, overcast and raining, but we need the rain, so it's okay. It's very good to be with you. Very quickly this morning, this afternoon, I'd like to give you a quick update of the activities of the Moon Village Architecture Working Group. So I won't go through the organization of the Moon Village Association again, but I would just mention that within the association, the Moon Village Architectural Concepts and Considerations Working Group is conducting first-of-a-kind studies in various areas, looking at the goals, the missions and operations that humanity will undertake concerning Earth's moon over the next several decades. We do this in a very focused conceptual framework, including a set of scenarios, which I'll mention in just a moment, and built on the foundation of the Global Exploration Roadmap, which is being published and updated by the International Space Exploration Coordination Group, ISIG-G. We have identified a range of architectural element classes, different types of architectural elements, things like Earth to orbit transportation, human systems, and so on. And from these, we have identified specific building blocks, which then inform other activities across the MVA and we hope internationally. This year and last year, we are conducting a focused case study looking at the vision of the first human settlement on the moon by 2045. This is a figure from the recently published August 2020 Global Exploration Roadmap, essentially identifying what will be the various activities. The moon is frankly very fast changing right now. It's been the same for 4.5 billion years, but over the last 5 years, it seems like every year there are significant changes and updates on international plans for the moon. Just this week, there was an announcement of cooperation between the Russian Federation and the Chinese Space Agency on establishing a base on the moon. It's not yet reflected in the roadmap, but because it's only a few days old, but it's an indication of how rapidly things are changing. From this foundation, we have defined longer-term scenarios because it's impossible to know the future. Every year, every 6 months, there are changes about what the plans are for the moon. We are looking at space exploration-driven activities, science-driven activities, and development-driven activities, including both government, academic, and commercial investments. From these scenarios, we have defined the case study for a settlement in 2045 that I mentioned. It includes looking at both cislunar space activities as well as lunar surface activities in a series of zones, high-level zones. Our principal focus is on the often illuminated South Polar Lunar Ridge, which has been the subject of a great deal of study recently, and the permanently shadowed regions, PSRs, at the South Pole concerning volatile deposits, including what are believed to be deposits of water ice. In December of last year, we conducted a large virtual event, some 3 days, about 5 hours each day, more than 60 participants from around the world looking at the topic of the case study and identifying a wide range of concepts, systems, technologies, and options for this settlement 2045. And we have identified a location where such a settlement might be located. We're going to be talking about that more in just a few seconds. Some high-level results. I don't have a lot of time to go into all the details, but let me just say there were no showstoppers identified in terms of transportation or resources, energy, radiation protection, and so on. There are a number of known unknowns to be solved, such as the details of biosphere systems, the concepts of operations for such an outpost, a settlement, and so on. And there are some unknown unknowns yet to be better understood, such as how the effects of low gravity will impact various living organisms, the sources of key materials for a settlement, and others. And we need a better understanding of resources and the topography of the region of the moon where a settlement might be located. 2 key topics will be leading to updates. In addition to updating the scenarios, which I mentioned a moment ago, and that update will be coming shortly, there is a need to incorporate the installations and operations of multiple countries or groups in the consideration of what the moon might be like in 2045. In addition, we've identified a need for a metric to better characterize the maturity of various program systems, countries, to better realize sustainable lunar operations. We are now developing a set of moon village readiness levels, which will not duplicate the technology readiness levels that Oleg mentioned a moment ago, but will look to the specific moon village related issues and requirements. I wanted to highlight just for a moment the selected site. As I mentioned, it's on the moon's South Polar Ridge, in particular 2 craters which are on the edge of the ridge, approximately 15 kilometers from the lunar South Pole, which is located here, as you can, I'm sure everyone knows by this point. This is a topographical map of the zooming in on the South Polar Lunar Ridge. It's a product from the working group. It identifies where the outpost would be, which we have tentatively named Oasis. An autonomous settlement in Selene, on Earth's moon. We've identified locations for a cryogenic depot, including propellants, and for the first reusable spaceport on the moon. Our plan forward is rather detailed, so I won't go through it. I will just highlight that we have a great many activities planned for the remainder of 2021 into early 2022, including additional workshops, the engagement of the working group results at the IAC, and of course, participation in upcoming Moon Village Association meetings next fall. For more information, please see the Moon Village Association website. And if you wish, please contact me directly if you would like to become involved in the working group and to become part of the architecture studies activity. Oleg, with that, I turn the microphone back over to you. Thank you so much to everyone for your kind attention.
Thank you very much indeed, John, for this presentation. And we are now moving to another sunny place, which is Kuwait. I would like to introduce Ghanim Alotaibi, who is a member of the Moon Village Association and a manager of the project, which is called Participation of Emerging Space Countries, PESC. Previously, Ghanim worked in the oil sector in Kuwait for 6 years before he completed his master's in solar energy from Freiburg University in Germany. Currently, he is an engineer in the remote sensing laboratory in Kuwait University and working in a CubeSat project for Earth observation. The aim of the PESC project, which has been already mentioned, is to involve developing countries in the moon activities. Today, Ghanim is in charge of a network of 9 countries around the world to make space exploration a truly international effort. Ghanim, please.
Thank you very much, Oleg. It's my pleasure, of course, to discuss about the PESC project and the development we had so far. The core product of the PESC project is the production or the generation of a roadmap that will explain how an emerging space country will be participating in moon activities. So the creation of a roadmap is supported by experts from the Moon Village Association, and the roadmap is a dynamic document. So as the local teams in each country will be approaching customers and investors, some aspects of the roadmap will be modified. And this process will be re-evaluated until a country is actually participating in moon activities. So the PESC project can be seen as a capacity building program because writing the roadmap itself is an exercise for the local teams. Of course, we are focusing on the youth. It's a consultation opportunity if a space agency would like to learn about moon activities, and it's a platform for local and international partnership. So when we had our first call last summer, we received 13 applications from 4 different regions, Latin America, Africa, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. And now, of course, we have roadmaps and a network that in the PESC project. So in the Middle East, we have 3 countries, Kuwait, Jordan, and Egypt. Kuwait and Jordan has no space agencies, and therefore the teams are independent. In the case of Egypt, the team are really diverse. So we have some team members are part of the space agency, Egyptian Space Agency, and some of them are working somewhere else. In each country, we have the top-down approach and bottom-up approach. For the bottom-up approach, each country will be having different projects. For example, in the case of Kuwait, they will have a survey of capabilities. What are the infrastructure available for moon activities in Kuwait? In the case of Jordan, they proposed a moon analog facility because of the climate and the geography in Jordan. In Egypt, there is an idea about a mission to the moon. Those projects will be done and will be drafted by the local teams, but of course there are other activities regarding the top-down. In the case of Kuwait, Kuwait is not a member of COPUOS, so there will be some activities to make Kuwait part of COPUOS. Jordan foster government involvement, for example, as Giuseppe mentioned just a moment ago about GEGSLA and other government approach. In Egypt, similarly, of course, having a group to have the government participate in moon activities is very important. In Latin America, we had Chile, Mexico, and Colombia. The Chile and Mexico teams are also well connected to space agency, but Colombia are independent group. Analog habitat and analog mission seems to be an attractive option for many countries. So the same in Chile and Colombia. In Mexico, they proposed 3 different projects in their roadmap, and they are working on this. And of course, the top-down approach is about to foster government activities. In Africa, we had Kenya. They are well connected to the space agency, and they proposed so many projects because the team is really big from Kenya. We had a huge team. So they are going to prioritize the projects and see how things will be more beneficial for Kenya. From Asia, we had Mongolia and Nepal. In the case of Mongolia, again, they proposed an analog habitat, and of course, they want to have it more international with more international stakeholders. And Nepal, because of the Himalaya mountain, they also propose an analog habitat. So we will be aiming to expand the network even further, and it's we are going to have a new call this summer, hopefully by June. We will be calling for teams again from all over the world, emerging countries to participate. We will have a series of webinars to prepare the teams to write the roadmaps. And then we will have 3 months for the different teams to work on their roadmaps. And then in January and February 2022 will be the end of the cycle by having a feedback meeting and an individual discussion about the roadmaps. So thank you very much. The mic is yours now, Oleg.
Thanks a lot, Ghanim. We move to the British Columbia, and I would like to give the floor to Syed Ali Nasiri. Ali, being an implementation support officer at the MVA, is also an executive research coordinator at the University of British Columbia, managing the programming languages at Artificial Intelligence Group at the university. Before, Ali worked as an aerospace consultant with Defense Research and Development Canada and completed a European Commission-funded Marie Curie Early Stage Research Fellowship at ISI Foundation in Italy. Ali is also an honorary board member and former chair of SJC in 2016-18. He is the vice chair of the IAF Space Education and Outreach Committee, a member of the IAF Workforce Development Young Professional Program Committee, and the recipient of the IAF Young Space Leader and Distinguished Service Award. Ali, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Oleg, for the introduction. I'm going to quickly try and go through some of the activities within the global network at the MVA and hint at ways that those that are listening can get involved with the organization. As you heard before, we have more than 200 members around the world. This is how they're distributed. And despite this panel not being as diverse as it could be, our members are diverse. Many of them are students, many of them are under 35, many of them are women. And one of the things that we really wanted to do is provide opportunities for everyone to get involved. And basically, that means finding different types of activities that they can get involved with beyond some of the technical working groups, projects, and other activities that we have. So we broke down our countries into particular regions for coordination purposes, and this is kind of has been formalized recently in the past few months. And in each of these regions, we have a few regional coordinators, and for each country, 2 national coordinators that would work with local volunteers to adapt the activities that the MBA has to those that are interested in localities. And I'll talk a little bit about the activities that they do. I want to point out before I go there, though, that we are currently looking for new national coordinators and regional coordinators. There's a call open on our website, so I encourage everyone to go and take a look, and if you're interested, consider applying for it. Our current national and regional coordinators are listed here. You see that they come from all over the world, and this is a growing team. About, I would say, more than 50% of our coordinators have actually joined us since January this year. So a lot of them are new, and they are coming up with many new ways to engage. And these are the countries that we've managed to cover to this point. We're trying to obviously grow and provide opportunities in every country that we can. So activities that our coordinators do can range from running social media with focused on their own countries. Obviously, there's a language barrier sometimes that prevents people to engage with our organization, and adapting what MVA is doing to different localities really helps get input and engage even the public. In addition to that, many of our coordinators are involved with organizing forums and events. Some of them focused on discussing technical topics. Many of them focused on public outreach and public discussions around the moon. And these are some of the activities that we've had. In addition to that, many of our coordinators also work with our project groups working groups. So you've already heard about one of the working groups, the Architectural Concepts Working Group, but we have 5, soon to be 6, the 6th being the Analog Working Group, that are active, and the working groups have their own activities. I've listed 2 examples here. We've had a series of webinars that MVA has been hosting, and if you're interested, you can join those. But they also meet on a monthly, sometimes in some of the working groups weekly basis to discuss specific topics. And that's a great way for many individuals in different countries to engage with the, I would say, with those that are working on the moon and bring their ideas to the MVA. Many of these working groups, for example, the Outreach Working Group, also provide and generate content that then we can localize and use in outreach activities at a local level. You also heard about one of our projects, which is PESC. We also have the Payload Project. Many of the countries that are involved with PESC are involved through their coordinators, and the coordinators already have a team at local level that works with them. So there's a connection between PESC and those global network members that I talked about. Our Payload Project also engages with our national coordinators to bring the concept of the payload projects that MBA has to our local members and those interested at a local level. As I mentioned before, there are many students and young professionals. About 1/3 of our members are young professionals. And because of that, we've also started exploring the opportunity to hold a workshop focused on students and young professionals. This is kind of right now planned for this summer, and it will involve different organizations, including the SJC. And it would be a workshop style opportunity to really discuss a few topics of interest about the moon and bring insights from the younger generation to the discussions going around about those topics. And again, there's going to be more information about that in the coming months. I want to end by just pointing out the ways that you can engage with the MBA. You can, if you're not sure about what we do, one of the best ways to engage is to join our Slack community as a guest. You can do that by going on our website. I've put an image of where you can find that. It's on the menu called Get Involved. If you feel that you're interested enough, you can always join us as a member. One thing I should point out also is we mentioned before that we have about 200 members. What we didn't mention is we also have around maybe 250 individuals who are not members and have already engaged with our community through our projects and working groups. And we are now exploring ways of officially finding a definition for them. And this is still ongoing, but I really wanted to point out that there are more people involved than just the 200 members that we mentioned before. Consider becoming a member. If you are interested more in national activities, reach out to the national coordinators that are listed there. You can always use the contact form on our website to reach out to those. If you're interested, you can apply to be one of our coordinators using the volunteer opportunities on our website. We also post other volunteer opportunities that come up regularly. So if you're interested in volunteering part of your time, keep an eye on that or on our social media, and we will share opportunities with you. And finally, as I mentioned, there are many projects and working groups that the MVA has, and you can always consider joining those. To do that, we have some information about each working group and project on our website. It's under technical activities. You can get an idea of what they're doing and always reach out to the people that are leading those activities. If you can't find the contact information on our website for some reason, again, use the contact form on our website and we'll make sure that your message gets to the right people. And with that, also consider following us on social media. I'll end there. Thanks everyone for listening, and I'll let Oleg continue the discussion now.
Thank you very much, Ali. It's a good time now to move to the Q&A session. And we have got a quite interesting question, actually. And I suggest that we start with some fundamental ones, which I'm going to address to Giuseppe, I believe. NASA, ESA, USA, Roscosmos, China, and India are having relative independent programs. Why this MVA was created? By what resources this group will be supported? And similar question. About the aim of the MVA creation. It echoes a bit the same questions that I have just formulated. Giuseppe, could you please answer?
Well, thank you for the question. Actually, the answer is already in the question itself, because the question was indicated that there are independent programs. So, well, that is exactly the root of the Moon Village Association. It is because there are so many independent stakeholders and therefore programs that the MVA offers a platform where basically all the stakeholders can get in contact with each other. This is really the root of this organization. So that is the first point. The second point, in terms of resources, the organization gets the resources from the fee of the member, as well as from our annual workshop, which is one of our main source of fund. What is important to realize, the organization is independent and neutral, so we don't have any major sponsor. However, we have also a number of institutional members, which are also paying, say, fee, which is basically commensurate to the sites. So that, I would say, in a nutshell, is the answer to the questions.
Thank you, Giuseppe. Another question came from Dr. Hans Zelig, and I believe it's for John to answer. Will there be a need for partial G testing of technology for the Moon Village? I think this would make sense. John, you have mentioned already a little bit the gravity aspect, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Very interesting question. So this is definitely a part of the formulation of these Moon Village readiness levels that I mentioned, i.e. the development and validation of new capabilities for the Moon for the Moon Village and the environment in which they will operate. I think the challenge for developing technologies and establishing systems is multi-tiered. Some of these involve the dusty vacuum environment, the radiation environment, the thermal environment, and in particular, the gravity environment will be very challenging for validation of new capabilities without actually going to the moon. So I think that how this will be realized is a very significant question and one to be explored. I do think that for the operational aspects, that the analogs that Ghanem mentioned a few minutes ago and the idea of these test beds internationally will be extremely valuable. But of course, they will all be in 1G. So I think programs like the CLIPS, like the series of landers that are now being planned, for example, by China, by other countries, by India, by Japan, these will be extremely useful, not just for the specific mission objectives, but also to begin developing more experience in operating in 1.6G. So excellent question. Time will tell.
Thank you, John. Another question. How do you think activities can be ruled from a law point of view? Can it be something similar to the ISS treaty? Giuseppe, probably it's for you.
So the question is whether it should be something similar to the ISS.
As an option, yes. How all these activities can be ruled from a law point of view?
Okay, so basically the concept of the Moon Village, it is an open concept. And indeed, program like the International Space Station, where I had the pleasure to participate for 16 years, they are extremely cumbersome from the point of view of the implementation. So the concept of the Moon Village is open, meaning that people will basically participate in groups of country, like for instance, Artemis Accord, maybe now the China racing Russian cooperation, and there may be many more. So there will not be, the way at least presently thinking, an overarching, let's say agreement, but there will be framework of code of conduct, common behavior of the moon, which is the main reason to develop with the GEGSLA the common level playing fields for the lunar mission. So in a nutshell, the Moon Village is a concept which will be basically able and to get more country involved, commensurate to what they can bring, which can be also intellectual, which is different, of course, for the International Space Station. International Space Station is extremely successful, the most successful international program. Still, it's very cumbersome, and it does not yet, let's say, be quite, let's say, suitable for the Moon Village. The last point I want to make, ISS had a sort of mixed management with one of the major country leading. The Moon Village hopefully is going to be more open with different group of country, however, with a clear, a common, let's say, level playing field, which will allow them to cooperate.
Okay, thank you, Giuseppe. For which kind of production activities could the moon be exploited, John? And I will address to you another question as well. Do you think the human beings will manage to set the basis for a moon village within the next 20 years?
So to answer the first question, the second question first, I absolutely think that it is possible. And if things continue to advance as they have in the last 5 or 10 years with regard to what are called new space activities, commercial space, in addition to traditional government programs, and if this continues around the world, I think absolutely humans can establish the foundation, not just for lunar bases or camps, but in fact for true lunar resource development and the lunar settlement. Now, concerning the first question, you asked about production. Could you restate the question again? I'm sorry.
Yes. For which kind of production activities could the moon be exploited?
Yeah, so certainly there's a great deal of interest in the lunar ices, which have been detected in the last 20 years. And so there's a lot of focus on the lunar South Pole. However, the moon itself very closely resembles the material composition of the Earth's crust, which is no surprise because of the common origin of our Earth and our sister planet, the planetoid, the moon. There's a lot of aluminum, there is oxygen, there is steel, there is titanium, there's silicon, all manner of materials and resources that can, with the application of energy, be harvested and turned into very useful products and systems. I think at the very least, the moon will be developed, will be utilized for water ice, for oxygen, hydrogen, but almost immediately for key bootstrapping materials and systems, such as using lunar silicon and aluminum and conductors to make lunar PV arrays. And as you make more power, you have more energy with which to do development, and this will bootstrap. This will lead to an accelerated utilization of the moon, both for the benefit of activities on the moon and the benefit of cislunar space and the Earth itself. So I see it as a multi-tiered process, multi-step process, but beginning with those resources that allow the leveraging of lunar activities. I hope that was not too long an answer. I'm sorry.
Okay. And related question, in fact, can you already guess what would be the best moon region area to settle down? I think you partly addressed this issue in your presentation.
Exactly. Based on a variety of parameters, which will be discussed in in an update of the architecture study interim report. It basically it's the lunar South Pole near the permanently shadowed regions where ices have been detected, but also near the sunny spots where energy is available, and with a view to the Earth, taking into account the Frank White overview effect, which Giuseppe talks about frequently with regard to the NVA payload project. The judgment of the working group is that if you're going to go to the moon, one of the principal reasons for a person to go to the moon is to look at our home. And from the location we have chosen, the Earth itself will be hanging huge and beautiful on the horizon past the Malapert Massif. And so it should be a truly spectacular view.
Thank you, John. Do you think an association like NVA will be able to provide in the future master courses and studies for students interested in moon habitation activities? Who wants to answer?
I think John, because he's doing already that.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunities. One of the principal things about my educational activities is the discovery of how much excitement and how much interest there is, and how little that is focused on the complex systems and technologies involved in the Moon Village. Realizing the Moon Village is actually being taught at the undergraduate or even the graduate level. Unless you get someone, an individual graduate student who builds his program, his or her program around a Moon Village related topic, there are very few programs. They're just here or there. You can find some activity. Tokyo University of Science with Mukai Sensei, University of Southern California with Madhu Thangavalu, the International Space University. But that leaves millions of students who would like to be working on the moon who now cannot. So I think there's a need for programs, undergraduate and graduate, focusing on the cross-cutting issues of the moon around the planet.
Okay, thank you, John. And probably the last question, which returning us to the gravity issue. Can the gravity issues on the moon be overcome through underground life, like in the novel, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress?
Yeah, so clearly not so much the gravity, but having a layer of regolith will be crucial with regard to the radiation environment, and having both the radiation protection and a view to the outside is one of the challenges of design for a lunar settlement. But the gravity issue, we're going to be coming out with a rather novel solution that might be implemented in the settlement 2045. So please stay tuned.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all the panelists, and I think it's time to wrap up. Dear attendees, I hope you enjoyed our today's session and received quite a bit of useful information. Our intention was not to show you just what are the latest developments at the MVA, but also to show you the ways how you can be engaged in our activities and to contribute to the areas of our activities that most corresponds to your interests. We are very much looking forward to hearing from you and to interacting with you. Thanks a lot for being with us today, and all the best. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye then.
Ciao.